Agenda item 5B. This is a request for a use permit to allow an addition which increases the gross floor area by 50% and a minor modification to include a 8-foot street side setback where 10 feet is required per sections 12-230B1 and 12-12010A of the San Bruno Municipal Code. Staff report, please.
Thank you and good evening. As stated, the applicant has applied for a use permit and minor modification to add on to an existing single-family dwelling. The site itself is located on the northeast corner of Acacia Avenue, Santa Lucia Avenue, and is currently developed with a one-story single-family dwelling consisting of 730 square feet of living area and a 345 square foot one-car garage. The applicant is proposing a first and second-story expansion. The first floor will contain one family room, a study, and one bathroom. The second floor will contain 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. In total, this would amount to a 4-bedroom home with 2 bathrooms and a study consisting of 1,823 square feet of living area and a one-car garage. I would like to point out that the applicant is converting a small portion of the garage into a hallway to create the required internal circulation between the existing single-family dwelling and the proposed expansion. At the May 10th Architects Review Committee, several commissioners expressed concern with the existing internal circulation and felt that the floor plan could easily be converted to a second dwelling unit. Now, the commissioners weren't primarily concerned that the current property owner would convert it, but was definitely more concerned that a future property owner may see the layout and may convert that to a second unit. Staff has added 2 conditions of approval. I'd like to point your attention to conditions of approval number 6 and number 7. Condition of approval number 6 is our standard condition that we include on all single-family homes, and it reads that the residence shall be used only as a single-family residential dwelling unit. No portion of the residence shall be rented out as a secondary residential dwelling unit. Any attempt to construct an illegal dwelling unit will result in code enforcement action by the city. And we've also included condition of approval number 7, which is a custom condition strictly for this application, and it states that a deed restriction shall be recorded against the property prior to building permit final. The deed restriction shall prohibit the conversion of any portion of the home into a separate living unit without first obtaining planning division approval. So this deed restriction will essentially warn future property owners that this it has to remain as a single-family home, and in order to convert it to a second dwelling unit, they do need planning division approval. The Architects Review Committee also recommended that the applicant incorporate wood window trim throughout the home and include a green building statement describing the green building measures that they plan to incorporate during the construction phase of the project. The applicant has since followed up with those recommendations. The applicant also has made some very minor changes to the plan since the Architects Review Committee meeting. Specifically, they made some minor window changes to the second floor plan. Made some minor adjustments to the floor plan on the second floor as well, and increased the ceiling height from 8 feet to 9 feet. Staff did send a courtesy notice to all adjacent property owners and the required public notice to all property owners within 300 feet of the site. We did receive one email from a concerned property owner directly across the street. They were more concerned with the second floor expansion and felt that the second floor expansion could potentially block the morning sunlight that they currently enjoy. They asked staff if a shadow study would be required for this application. Staff responded and stated that a shadow study typically would not be required, given the fact that the second-story expansion is meeting all setback requirements. It's less than the 28-foot height limit. It's coming in at 23 feet, and it's meeting the daylight plane requirements or criteria outlined in the residential design guidelines. Overall, staff finds that the addition is consistent with the existing single-family dwelling and the residential design guidelines. The second floor is set back from the first story below, which is a common facade articulation technique outlined in the residential design guidelines. Additionally, as previously stated, the second floor expansion will be meeting the daylight plane criteria outlined in the guidelines as well. I would like to point out that the existing single-family home does have substandard setbacks. The front setback currently measures 11 feet 7 inches, where 15 feet is required, and the street side setback varies from 5 feet to 8 feet. This is a common design feature within the neighborhood and is present on many homes within that specific neighborhood. There are a lot of substandard setbacks. As stated, the applicant is applying for a minor modification to expand the first floor directly north of the garage, and this would continue the 8-foot non-conforming setback. Staff is in support of this expansion. It is consistent with the existing single-family home and the development standards within the neighborhood. I would like to point out that the addition meets all other development standards of the zoning district. Overall, staff is supportive of the use permit and minor modification request and recommends that the Planning Commission approve the project based on findings of fact 1 through 9 and conditions of approval 1 through 25. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Any questions for staff?
Through the chair.
Commissioner?
Condition number 7, I mean, is it even needed? I mean, isn't that the city restriction for any house anywhere that doesn't meet the in-law criteria?
It is, but the commissioners were concerned about future property owners. If they looked at the floor plan and the way it was laid out, they felt that potentially this could be converted to a second dwelling unit. So essentially what this does is put future property owners on notice. And because it will be recorded against the property, they'll know for a fact that it can't be a second dwelling unit unless they receive planning division approval.
I think we're kind of singling out I mean, we should do this would be a good condition on every project. I mean, not just one more problem on a point of sale. I don't think it's necessary. It's in our codes, it's in our regulations, it's in our, I mean, everybody who buys a house should know that they can't rent out, use a part of their house as a secondary thing. And I think unless we have a findings of approval because of the certain layout of this house and the easy access for a second unit, I mean, I think we're just kind of, I don't like it myself. Unless we do it with everybody, I don't like it with this one. I understand why you're doing it. I'm not saying I disagree with it. I think we're being, I don't know. I don't know what the word is.
Through the chair. I think the middle ground is something that you touched on, is that we haven't recommended this before, but there are certain floor plans that lend themselves to potential buyers that are saying, hey, let's set up a second unit. I see this floor plan would work well with the second unit. So I think if we do apply this condition of approval, in the future we should apply it to projects that also have similar floor plans and then incorporate that language within the findings. That way we do have some nexus and we're not just saying, this one, at a whim putting this condition on. But it is something that has to be applied consistently, and then this could be a starting point. But I do agree some type of language should be added to the findings of approval so that down the line we make sure we're consistent with other applications with similar floor plans.
Okay. Yeah.
Through the chair.
Commissioner?
I'd like to second Commissioner Marshall's objection to that condition of approval, because I think it could have been easily applied to lots of other applications in the past, and I think it unfairly singles out this one. The deed approval, the deed restriction aspect is what I'm objecting to. Is that what you were primarily concerned with?
I can't speak for fact, but upon transfer or sale of this house, like the way the lenders are these days, when they're looking at everything, if they see a deed restriction on here, you're going to open up a can of worms for, I'm 10 years from now, if they try to sell the house and the new lender says, well, why does this house have a deed restriction? I've never, I just don't want to put them in jeopardy of that. So I think some verbiage in the findings of fact could help on that. And I don't want to make it look like if they go to refinance the house that there's an issue here. You put things in deeds these days, and everything's. I don't want to make their life miserable later. I'm just trying to. I think verbiage in the findings of fact, in the findings could help out, like Aaron was saying.
Through the chair.
Commissioner?
I also want to support that Commissioner Marshall's comments. I think it's really important, and it's our responsibility to look at every detail and to look at properties. And any time that I make a decision that's out of the range, it does have to have some level of hardship or some level of issues that would make that decision. And in this case, unless there's some historical issue and some background findings, I find that at this particular time to have maybe an ad hoc committee or something to take a look and to say this is something that's going to be moving forward. I think that to start off with someone and to have something on record of this sort, it does feel a bit stringent. And so I would agree. I would agree that putting it on a deed of trust, it's just another level. And I think that it doesn't feel like it's part of a planning commission decision. I believe that it requires another, I think that it requires some future discussion and at least from my point of view before it comes to making a decision of this nature.
Through the chair.
Commissioner.
Yep. It's more a statement, I think, than a question, but it looks to me that the elevations for both the existing and modified or proposed are mislabeled.
Could you elaborate?
Well, for example, on page A4, the bottom elevation, which shows modified side west elevation, isn't that actually the front of the house? And then where it says modified rear, isn't that the side of the house? Right?
Technically, the west elevation is the side of the house. We define the front of the lot as the shortest street frontage there. So it's a corner lot. So on Santa Lucia Avenue, there's 40 feet of street frontage, and that would be considered the front of the lot.
So the front door is not on the front of the house?
Correct.
The garage door is not on the front of the house?
Correct.
And the
Okay.
address is in the front of the house. Because this house
So
is
the
an
address
Acacia
isn't-
address.
They do have an Acacia address, so it's 100 Acacia Avenue.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Through the chair.
Commissioner.
My other comment was, if there is a concern in this particular property, is there something within the layout or within the development of this project that might need to have attention to not minimize the size so much, but ask to take a look at this to say, is there something that needs to be looked at to restructure the drawing so it doesn't have that potential of a future concern?
I'd say looking at the floor plan and the overall site plan, they are extremely limited in what they can do as far as an addition.
I see that.
They do have 2 street trees that played into the design of the proposal before us tonight. So they are limited, and they have to, the only way to really create that internal circulation is to convert a portion of the garage into a hallway space to connect the existing single-family home with the proposed addition, given site constraints. An extreme measure would be to completely relocate the location of the garage. However, that would be a huge expense, and we would lose a street tree, which the city doesn't like to do. We like to keep as many street trees as possible. So that would be the extreme case, to
Yeah.
move the location of the garage and revise the location of the addition.
I understand that. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Commissioner.
This actually creates a one-car garage, pretty much, where there was a two-car garage.
It was always considered a one-car garage, given the actual dimensions of the garage itself. So it's going from a large one-car garage to a slightly smaller one-car garage.
Thank you very much.
Through the chair. There's actually, I'm going to look at this here, kind of a question that came up at work today on another house. I noticed this garage, besides the garage door, has no other exits. Does a garage need a secondary exit? That's a question. I don't know if we had another house in a different whole city that an issue came
Yeah.
up on a zoning use. in
I
South
don't
City.
believe there's anything within the building code, and there's nothing within our zoning code that would require it. I can double check with our building official though and get back to the planning commission, but I've never heard that requirement. I think I
Well,
would have
it
come
came up
across
as
it.
it came up as a fire code issue in South City, and I'm actually
For
disputing-
residential?
For residential, yeah.
I'll double check on that and get back to the
And I'm
planning.
fighting it. I didn't think it, I couldn't find it anywhere, and so, but the fire department is saying that there had to be a secondary exit, if possible, if possible.
Commissioner, from what I recall, to get out of the garage if there's a fire, it's 2 motions: pull the cord, lift the door, and so that should be enough to get out of the garage door. To satisfy code. So,
I I don't know.
but Aaron can check into that.
Yeah.
It's something to look into before they design a house. If the fire department is going to require a secondary exit,
I think we'll wait till planning commission discussion to discuss the requirement for the deed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Could you take the podium, state your street address, and tell us a bit about your project?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for spending the time to review the project. My name is Jason Chen, the architect of the project, and he is the owner, Mr. Wong. And I think met the planning department staff pretty well explained the project, and I don't want to repeat the same thing again. I think he already explained why we putting a hallway that connect to the new addition from the existing building, because the limit of the narrow lot, and also the garage in the middle between two big trees, and then the curb cut. If we're relocating the garage, then we had to cut down that big tree on the sidewalk, and then we had to redo the curb cut again. So that's why we keep the old garage, and rather than go around the back of the garage to the new addition. And this is a small home, and then it's only 731 square feet. And then they have a 2 grow-up kids, they need bigger house. And then after we put all this 1,000 square feet to the existing house, I think still pretty small house compared to the house in that neighborhood in general. So, I don't have anything else to say. I'm open. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for the applicant?
Through the chair.
Commissioner?
Are you satisfied, and is the owner satisfied with the conditions, including the deed
Well, we don't
restriction?
mind. I mean, there's no intention of the owner to create a secondary unit, and as I say earlier, they have 2 grow-up kids and husband and wife, and then they want a bigger house, and then they want to stay there for a long time. And so they don't mind if the city feel comfortable to have that deed, have them decide. They don't mind to sign that deed. But I think
So
that the planning code have the title for single-family unit already. So I think this is a little bit redundant, but we don't mind to sign it if the city feel comfortable about it.
So he's very, the owner is very clear of that condition and has no concerns or issues with it.
No,
Thank you for that.
thank you.
Thank you. You can take a
Thank
seat.
you.
We'll open up public comment. If there are any members of the public that would wish to speak on this, you can take the seat.
Okay, thank you.
We'll open up public comment, and no, you can actually take a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you. If not, public comment is open and closed. We'll bring it back to the city, to the planning commission for discussion. Let's address the issue of the deed. Do we want to keep it? Do we want to strike it? Are there any suggestions, or if there's nothing, then we'll
Through the
go.
chair, I'd like to ask our planning director your thinking behind it, and not so much why it came to this, but hearing the discussion from the planning commission, what would be your your point of view on that?
If it weren't for the Architecture Review Committee's discussion at the previous meeting, we probably wouldn't have included it. I think if we do want to include it, we should include it consistently going forward and not just have this be a one-time thing. I spoke to the city attorney about this when we first drafted the conditions of approval. He said some cities do this. It's pretty, he used to work for the city of Belmont. That was something that the city of Belmont did quite often when they were concerned about the potential for a conversion. It hasn't been our practice to include this, so if the Planning Commission is comfortable not including this, and just letting our normal zoning laws take effect and our normal building code laws take effect, I think we'd be, the staff would be comfortable eliminating that condition. But if we do choose to put it in, let's do it consistently from now on.
My concern is that if we were to make this decision this evening without some discussion or some, research on it, it would not, just would, at least from my point of view, doesn't feel like I would be doing my best thinking on this. So, my point of view is that I'd like to eliminate it from the, as a condition.
Through the chair.
Commissioner?
I'd like to move that the commission approve use permit 12-5 and minor modification 12-1 based on finding of fact 1 through 9, subject to conditions of approval 1 through 25, deleting condition 7.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any noes or abstentions? Motion's approved. There is a 10-day appeal period. Thank you.